Today, the basement will be looking at Metroid Prime for the GameCube to answer for ourselves. Is Metroid Prime the greatest game of all time? Metroid Prime was released on November 17, 2002. It sold over 1 million units in America, and it won many Game of the Year awards, including IGN's Editor Choice and Electronic Gaming Monthly's Game of the Year award. In a year with so many other great games, including Warcraft 3 for the PC, Battlefield 1942 for the PC, Animal Crossing for the GameCube, Tekken 4 on the PlayStation 2, Grand Theft Auto Vice City on the PlayStation 2, and Kingdom Hearts, to name a few, this was no small feat. Developed by Retro Studios and Nintendo, and published by Nintendo, Metroid Prime received a Metacritic score of 97 out of 100, one of the highest of all times. Given all the accolades the gaming community has given the game, we decided to break down the game and evaluate each of its parts to determine if it is indeed the basement's greatest game of all time. We've chosen to start our evaluation with the locales that Metroid Prime takes place in. There are two primary locations in the game, the space pirate freighter Orpheon and the planet Talon 4. The game begins on board the Orpheon, a starship drifting in space. This area is a tutorial area, teaching us the techniques that will become important as the game progresses. Even with this barrier, the environments are well done, with very little feeling out of place. Starship corridors have a mechanical look. Computer monitors and conduit fill the landscape, and the environment is very much what we have come to assume an interplanetary spaceship might look like. From a story aspect, the ship serves as a logical launching point to the main plot on the planet, and immediately drew us into the world of Metroid Prime. After completing the Orpheon tutorial, the game then travels to the surface of Talon 4. Talon 4 is a diverse landscape with jungle terrain, ancient ruins, lava-filled caverns, icy areas, mines, and even a crashed spaceship, all accessible as the game progresses. Unlike its predecessors, each of those areas all feel different. A simple elevator ride may move you from one section to the next, but when you arrive, the train is so well done, you feel as though you've moved to a new area, not just a different section, with a different color over it, like Metroid or Super Metroid before it. The Chozo ruins spread across the world feel as though you are in a civilization that has fallen. Buildings stand crumbling, statues stare vacant-eyed at you, and nature has begun to reclaim what belonged to it before. Even the sections that were placed specifically to create challenges and uses for your skills and abilities don't feel out of place, and it is evident that the design team spent time planning each section with meticulous effort. The sections of the overworld that are not covered in ruins have an almost jungle feel. Grass moves under your feet as you move, waterfalls tumble from above, and rocky outcroppings create simple obstacles for you to scale. Though some trees do exist, the landscape is kind of flat, and this is one of the few negatives we have on the landscape. Magmoor Caverns, the game's lava stage, are equally well done. The caverns feel like caverns. Lava flows and lakes exist in what feels like natural setting for the most part. The lava poses innate danger to you, and at times can act as an obstacle for your progress. Throughout the man-made tunnels and equipment speckled through the caverns feel real, with thought put into their placement. Overall, while our least favorite section to play, Magmoor Caverns is still an incredibly well-done environment. Vendara Drifts acts as the game's ice world. It also serves this role well, with the terrain feeling cold and barren. Frozen water dots the landscape. Snow covers the ground, and at times it blows in the air. Rocky outcroppings add to the desolate feel. The ruins that exist in this region are broken down and crumbling, but are also covered in snow and ice, making the area feel even more frigid. Vendara Drifts takes the standard blue blocks that you slide on ice world concept and makes it an environment that feels like a tundra. The crashed spacecraft brings back the man-made mechanical feel of the Orpheon to the overworld. Inside, surfaces are slanted, and environments consist of torn metal and broken equipment. Sections are underwater. Railings and catwalks are bent and twisted. The destruction of the impact can be seen in the tattered interior of this craft. This brings back the high-tech, man-made spacecraft feel of the Orpheon and adds a battered and broken feel to the area. Even the placement of platforms and ledges, necessary for the gameplay, don't necessarily feel forced, and at the very least are handled in a manner that remains in the realm of believability. The Phazon mines offer one final variation of the planet's surface. This area has an industrialized feel, with equipment and stone creating a believable mine setting. Cranes not only exist in the environs, but are movable parts of the world that allow you to get to other areas. Toxic Phazon pools and crystals exist, threatening you with the promise of constant damage if you touch it. The tunnels of the mines feel like they were carved through stone, and conduit, computers, and mining equipment are scattered about, reminding you of what this area was. Overall, the game's setting not only fits the game and its story, but also helps envelop you in that world. Each area feels different, but not so different you feel you have gone into another game. They are connected by similarities that make sense and keep the story moving forward. Metroid Prime took a franchise that already established an alien world scene and made the world a more living feature of the game, something games seldom do, and also made you, as the player, feel that not only were you a part of the game world, you were also involved in the game's universe as well. Metroid Prime has a limited cast of characters. While enemies are plentiful, and each of them have some personality, only two main characters exist in our opinions. Samus Aran, the main character, and Ridley, the assumed primary antagonist. As Samus Aran, you are a space bounty hunter. You have a powerful suit equipped with various weapons and tools, which you unlock as the game progresses. But as a character, the game itself lends very little to explain more about who Samus is. In our opinion, this exists for two primary reasons. The first is that this game is a sequel in a long-running franchise that was very popular. Many of the individuals who would be playing Metroid Prime had already played Metroid on the NES, Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, or one of the Game Boy games. These players would already have a wealth of knowledge from those experiences to draw upon, and have already established who Samus was. The second reason was the wealth of information openly available in other mediums on Samus. So much information, both fact and theory, was readily available to the public in the form of web pages, manga, and books that once again it was likely assumed that the average player would have already searched for this before playing the game. Even without any prior information, the game still progresses well enough, with Samus's profession as a space bounty hunter being enough to keep the people playing throughout the game without asking too many questions. Ridley, our second character, is also loosely defined. While the game does define him as a space pirate, you once again make a lot of assumptions if you don't have any prior information. Using the scan visor on Ridley reveals a bit more, but he still feels like a generic bad guy stereotype if you don't have any backstory or outside information to take into account. In conclusion, when viewed as a snapshot involving this game exclusively, the characters are acceptable at best. However, when viewed with the wealth of information available to anyone who searched for it, they are rich, fleshed-out participants in a larger world. While great gameplay may not make a game great, horrible gameplay can make a game horrible. But how does Metroid Prime fall in this category? Given Nintendo's creative methods of controls in 3D games, the Zelda franchise's no jump button style comes to mind. This game could have gone either way. Standard gameplay takes place in a first-person view. The GameCube's controller offers plenty of buttons to go along with the control stick, and Nintendo used them well here. Movement uses the control stick and is responsive. While it may seem a little bit touchy initially, once you've played the game for a short time, it becomes easy and intuitive to move around. Button placement is effective by default, with shooting, jumping, and menus all placed in an intuitive manner. The only complaint we found in this mode came from platforming. Jumping from platform to platform at times can be a bit of a struggle. At times, determining jump distance is a monumental task, and results in falls that are only adding to unnecessary repetition. Now, we are more than willing to accept the fact that most of us are not experts in this style of game, but we are far from rookies at it, and as such, the struggles could happen to anyone who plays the game. The other portion of gameplay occurs while in Morph Ball mode and is in third-person view. This fits well, with content in this mode being more puzzle-like and requiring the ability to see your surroundings at all times. The controls in this mode were a bit of a nuisance, with the sensitivity of motion being just too tight. Slip and push a direction a little bit too far, and you risk falling off a ledge or platform you're rolling on. Bomb jumping can be tedious and requires expert timing, but this is acceptable as it is not necessary for the core game, and it adds an acceptable challenge to gaining supplemental items. Overall, the gameplay is above average. For most situations, the controls are responsive and intuitive, and create an enjoyable experience. However, in a handful of instances, they can be a bit disruptive and require increased effort, which can distract from Metroid Prime being crowned the greatest game of all time. We at the Basement in no way put excessive weight on the graphical appearance of a game. Just because a game has photorealistic graphics doesn't make it great. Stanaway would like to point out Final Fantasy XIII as a perfect example. It has wonderful graphics, but due to its lack of enjoyable gameplay, he feels it's a subpar game. However, great graphics can definitely enhance the gaming experience, and thus require evaluation. We also recognize that technology continues to grow, and as such, we need to look at the game graphically when it was released, as well as graphically now, and how those graphics hold up today. Metroid Prime is graphically impressive. From the intro screen to the final battle, the graphics are well above average. The environments are solid. Terrain is well done, with each region looking different while utilizing a similar style. Additionally, the terrain design is done in a manner to effectively pin the player to those areas that are used for gameplay, making the world seem large without allowing the player to experience the larger world. An effective strategy when considering the system limitations at the time. Walls show age with cracking, vines and growth climb up untended surfaces, and sand and snow pile in untraveled corners. Inhabited areas have all the sci-fi tropes, from monitors to pipes and conduit traveling the walls. In areas where rain falls, the effects are visible in the environment. Even Samus's face mask shows raindrops when the rain hits it. This isn't the only point where Nintendo put effort into effects on the surface of the face mask. At points in the game, while crossing through steam, the mask fogs up, clouding vision. Additionally, when an explosion or other bright light occurs close to Samus, the reflection of her face can be seen on the inside of the mask as well. Such attention to detail is rare today, and was nearly unheard of at the time. While the game doesn't carry real-world graphics, we don't believe that was ever the intent. The game seems to have been designed to carry an almost comic book segment to the graphics, making the game more colorful at the expense of realism, which is most definitely acceptable. Compared to the games of the time, the graphics were definitely in the upper 10%. While not the best graphics of the time, all other factors of the game were given equal value, and thus the overall experience was the focal point. By today's standards, the graphics still stand up. While environments may be smaller than today's game, and without the finest details found in today's games, the game is still wonderful to look at. Animations are still smooth, effects stand the test of time, and overall it is enjoyable to play or watch. For all the years that have passed, Metroid Prime is still an enjoyable graphical experience in today's game world. Sound and music are often overlooked in evaluating a game. While they don't make a great game, they can make a game better. Additionally, they can make a great game miserable, when sounds are grating and music makes your ears bleed. Metroid Prime thankfully falls in the former category. Sounds in Metroid Prime are well done. Metroid and Super Metroid establish expectations of sounds in the Metroid world. This was not ignored in the sounds of Prime. Weapons sound similar to the previous games, but have refinements that became possible with the GameCube's hardware. Each weapon sounds different, and resembles what would be expected in a sci-fi environment. Explosions are robust and booming, as they should be.
Both Samus and the creatures in the environment all make the appropriate sounds during movement.
Snow crunches underfoot. Creatures' feet skitter on the stone, and Samus's feet make the appropriate noise when she lands from a jump. Environments crackle with noise, and when stone slides over stone, they make an accurate sound. Water splashes, electricity crackles, and all the sounds found in the game are crisp, accurate, and wonderful. They are subtle reminders of the world around you. Music is equally important. It sets the mood of the moment, and when done correctly, sticks with the player. It can pull someone back to a moment. Once again, the Metroid series has a grand library of recognizable music to pull from, even if some of it was very simple. Prime did not disappoint. Using this back library, Nintendo took the existing music and not only modified it, but also improved upon it.
The music helps make the player feel like they are in the moment, creating natural tension for the player. When the game requires haste, the music dictates such. The music sets the mood as you travel through the story. After our Let's Play, the game's music was hummed around the basement and would rapidly be picked up by those who experienced the game in the past. Beautiful and creative, with just enough nostalgia, the sound and music of Metroid Prime definitely does not disappoint. They are top-notch, hold up to today's much more extravagant expectations, and will stick with us here in the basement for another 20 years.
While not necessary to make a good game, replay value is nearly essential to make a game great. If a game only warrants one playthrough, it likely lacks in one or more of the previous covered areas. Replay value gives the game an extra dimension. If you can pick up the game again and again, and enjoy it nearly as much as the first time through, then it definitely falls into the great category. The basement definitely feels that Metroid Prime has an amazing replay value. Time and time again, we take this game off the shelf to play through it. Given the extensive library that exists in the basement, this gives even more weight to that concept. Each time we play through the game, we find something new and different. The game may play similarly, but never the same. Additionally, the developers built in a handful of additional tasks to help support this replay value. While not every missile upgrade or energy tank are necessary to complete the game, they offer a scavenger hunt of sorts for the player who wants to go back and play the game again. Scannable data is hidden around the world waiting to be collected. Thanks to some forethought by the game's creators, these help strengthen the replay value. Metroid Prime is not only a great game on the first run, but it is a great game on the 15th or 20th playthrough years later. What legacy did Metroid Prime leave on the video game world? Several things come to our mind, although we cannot say that these alone constitute its entire legacy. First, Prime awoke the grand Metroid franchise that had remained dormant for so long. Fans loved Metroid and Super Metroid, but there was a clamor for a new Metroid game on the Nintendo 64, but Nintendo remained silent. Time passed, and Metroid slipped out of the public's eye. Some hardcore fans remained on the front, begging for a new game in the series, but most either forgot about the series or accepted it was long since dead. Thankfully, this was not the case, and Nintendo took the IP and made an amazing game to relaunch the dormant beast.
Since, the franchise continues to shine, having several releases on multiple consoles, with the Switch release now confirmed.
Second, Metroid Prime showed what could be done to change a 2D franchise into a 3D one. Metroid and Super Metroid were both 2D side-scrollers, and while they were done extremely well, the series was due for an upgrade. And Nintendo did not disappoint. It took the IP and made an amazing 3D game, taking 2D concepts and translating them in the most successful ways.
While this was far from the first game to translate a 2D game to a 3D sequel, it was one of the first to do so with a shooter, and did so in a manner and to a level that was arguably unseen before it.
Third, Metroid Prime proved Nintendo could make a game that wasn't kiddie. Metroid Prime did not have the cartoon graphics that Nintendo was known for. It brought a more adult appearance to the game. Blood may not be a focal point in the game, but the violence was more present than was standard for Nintendo at the time. While not the first, nor the only title to move Nintendo another tick from the kiddie console moniker, which it will never truly escape, it did so while also being a great game with a solid story, something other titles did not. Finally, it showed off what the GameCube was capable of. The GameCube was the lowest powered of the consoles of the era. Metroid Prime was an excellent example of what the GameCube, while not a high-octane monstrosity, could do. It shined graphically, had grand sound and music, and was spanning many locations. It was one of several titles that we feel helped boost sales of the console, and which helps maintain ownership still today. So, we've reached the end of our evaluation and must come up with an answer to the question. Is Metroid Prime the greatest game of all time? We decided no, it is not. While the game is incredibly fun and definitely draws you into its universe, some of the small issues keep it from being the greatest game. Too much backtracking can make the game tedious at times. Cryptic clues make tracking down items difficult without a walkthrough. Frustrating enemy placement can make you want to toss a controller while platforming. But even with these drawbacks, we still had a ton of fun playing this game even with it being almost 15 years old, and we look forward to pulling it back out in another 5, 10, or 15 years and playing it again. But what do you think? Do you disagree with us? Did we miss anything? Leave your thoughts, questions, corrections, or concerns in the comments below. Additionally, if you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you want to see more new content from the basement, click the subscribe button and keep track of us. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you all the next time.